Diana, what you doing?
Well, today we're going to be making risotto. And risotto is made with arborio rice. You want to make sure that you use that type of rice because it has a higher starch content and will lead you to making something nice and creamy.
And is arborio rice hard to find, or is that
Not at all. Not at all. You can find it in any grocery store. It's just a shorter grain rice. It's actually named for a village in Italy.
It's kind of like little football-sized things, it looks like, in some ways. Okay.
Yep. So I always like to start by having everything prepped so that when I'm actually cooking, it's a more relaxed feeling. And that means I've read through the recipe and I've looked at all of the ingredients. I know I have everything all set, and then I can just...
What kind of wine do you have there?
Right, of course. Well, we're using 239 and we're going to be putting it into the risotto, but it's also in my glass, so that keeps me company in this process. Patience and wine are the key here. One of the first things you have to have for a good risotto is a lot of stock, and it should be nice and warm. I've made a stock using dried mushrooms. You need about 6 to 7 cups, and you're going to slowly be ladling this in. You could have any kind of stock you want, but since we're trying to be totally vegetarian here, we went with mushrooms. Step 2 is cooking your shallots. We chose shallots and not onions just because we like the little stronger flavor. So they're all nice and minced up. We're going to put them in that nice hot oil and get them cooking. And this will take 2 or 3 minutes to get them cooked to the tenderness we want them to be. So you're going to need about a pound of mushrooms for this recipe, and there are lots of different types of mushrooms available. We picked 3 different types here. We have the baby bellas. These are just small portobello mushrooms, and they're sort of meaty. We have shiitake mushrooms, which have a nice sort of woodsy flavor to them, a little exotic. And then the last one we picked are called beech mushrooms. These have a nuttiness to them, plus they're really fun looking. They look like little, I don't know, like a little forest. So I just broke them apart, and we will saute them like that. So now we're going to add the mushrooms to the shallots. We have the baby bellas in there, the shiitakes. We've turned up the heat a little bit so that they're going to just start to soften, and we're going to cook them for 2 or 3 minutes until they start to sort of sweat. So, looks like a lot of mushrooms, but they'll cook down quite a bit. The mushrooms have cooked down quite a bit, and so what we're going to do now is add some garlic and some sage, a little salt, and pepper. And we're going to cook this for another minute or 2 until it's nicely mixed together. And then we're going to set this aside. The recipe is a little unclear. I like to make my risotto by itself and then add the extra ingredients. So we're going to take these out and start the risotto in this pan. So we've taken the mushroom garlic mixture out of the pan and put in oil, and now we're going to add the rice, and we're going to make sure the rice is well coated with oil so that it sort of roasts. You want it to kind of start to crackle. It will develop a nuttiness from that roasting. You can actually see the grains start to change color. They get whiter as they start to heat up. So it's taken about 3 or 4 minutes, and the rice is now browning up. I do all my rice this way, makes it nuttier. And now I'm going to add some 239 to the pot. I'm going to turn the heat down because this should be done slowly. I'm also going to add some 239 to me. Cheers. And what we want to do is just keep the level of moisture here of liquids just about like this, just barely covering it. And we're going to slowly start adding our broth and stirring. This takes a long time. It might take a whole glass of wine to get through this, but oh well. So we're about halfway through, and you can see that the stock that we've put in is starting to look a little cloudy, which means that the starch is coming out and the creaminess is starting to develop. And once it gets to be about at this point, this is when you want to add another ladleful of stock, and then you just start stirring that around and wait for that to be absorbed. So the recipe calls for peas, but we thought we would add asparagus instead, so we've cut it up into fairly small pieces, and I'm just going to add this now to the risotto, which is not quite done. And it'll cook along with the rice, and we'll just keep adding in our stock, and that'll make it look much more interesting and add an extra flavor. So we're looking pretty creamy now, and one of the things we found is that by using the mushroom stock, there's not enough salt in this. So we've added some salt, and now we're going to put in the mushrooms. Oops. And mix those guys in. And another ladleful of stock. And give it a good stir. And then the last piece is going to be the Parmesan cheese, which we'll add right now, and this will help make it even creamier. Don't forget that Parmesan also has plenty of salt in it, so don't overdo. And now we're getting to a really nice consistency. Turn the heat off and let it sit. So Bruce, I really enjoy making risotto. It's very relaxing, and just, you know, you end up with this nice warm sort of, it's like comfort food almost.
It is comfort food, I think. And so how do you think we did?
I think it was great. It was really good. It had a different look than a lot of the risottos I made in the past because of the mushroom stock.
Yes, the mushroom stock was a departure from the conventional risotto, and
right.
it led to a color of the arboreal rice that was a little, you know, not traditional,
right.
But that's fine. I mean, it was almost, other than the cheese, which is not particularly vegan, it was essentially a vegan meal with the mushrooms, and I ate it for 3 days, and I'm still here to tell the tale. So it was pretty good.
So I hope everybody enjoys it, and we'll see you at dinner.
See you at dinner.
Okay.
With a glass of wine.
At least one.